So this activity is called hitching a ride, and we will be looking at a set of slides of parasitic worms and bugs and other kinds of organisms. So each slide in the set is numbered. The first slide, number 1, is called a Chinese liver fluke. It has a long scientific name on it, of course, but it's also known as the Chinese liver fluke. A fluke is a group of parasitic worms that have both male and female reproductive organs inside of it and reproduce asexually, which means that they don't need anybody else to reproduce. They can just do it by themselves and keep producing copies of themselves. So, as its name would suggest, it infects the livers of its host, and it especially affects humans. Other types of flukes, like the Chinese liver fluke, infect other types of vertebrates like dogs, cats, and other mammals, but this one is especially specific to humans. It has an oral sucker on its face that is used for feeding and attaching to its hosts, and it feeds on the blood and tissue, like fluids, of its host. It can also infect, like I said, dogs, pigs, rabbits, and frogs. What's parasitic about this organism is that it can cause severe liver dysfunction, infections that can damage other organs like the gallbladder. And how it's transmitted, it lays its eggs in the water and they just kind of swim around, and humans are able to get this when they drink the water that's been infected with the fluke, or they eat a plant that has the embryos on them, or they eat raw or undercooked fish or animal liver that contains the eggs that the liver fluke produces. So if we look at this under the microscope, we're going to want to look at all of these under the lowest power, which is the scanning objective, which is the shortest one. And then we're just going to move the little knobs to get it in focus. Slide number 2 in the set is a tapeworm. Tapeworms attach to the small intestines of their host. They don't actually feed on their host, they just absorb the nutrients that the host takes into the small intestine through its outer coating. It's kind of like our skin. These little worms that's on slide 2 can range in size anywhere from a few millimeters long to 75 feet long, which is pretty enormous. The head and neck structure house one or more sets of both male and female reproductive systems, which is just a kind of interesting fact. These tapeworms are common of dogs, and they have hooks, barbs, grooves, and suckers on their head to help them attach into the small intestines of their host. These little guys produce thousands of eggs and can be given to humans through eating undercooked pork and beef liver containing the baby tapeworms. An interesting thing about this is a lot of people will actually deliberately ingest tapeworms to try and lose weight because they actually have an effect in reducing a person's appetite, so you'll want to eat less because the tapeworms are absorbing all of your nutrients and giving you less hunger. But you should not do this because tapeworms can also sometimes migrate to the eye, brain, heart, lungs, and other organs and cause serious problems there. And also cause nausea, which is throwing up, weakness, abdominal pain, and blockage of your intestines, which means you won't be able to poop. And so we're going to look at this under the microscope again on the lowest power, which is the scanner lens. Then we're just going to move the knobs up and down to try and get it in focus. So slide number 3 is a hookworm. Hookworms exist only in moderate climates because they are actually killed by frost. They suck up the blood and tissue fluid of their hosts. They live naturally in feces, which is poop, and on the top layer of soil because they live in the poop that's deposited in the soil. And so this is immensely creepy. When the baby hookworms are developing into juveniles and are like, they're in their teenage phases basically, they shoot up from the soil and they extend themselves into the air and wave their bodies back and forth like drifting in the wind to try and become attached to like a passing by animal, to just try and attach. And after it attaches, it burrows itself into the host's skin, enters a blood vessel, travels to the heart and lungs, from the lungs then goes into the throat, where it gets swallowed and goes into the intestine, where the whole process starts over and it's pooped out and goes back into the soil. This specific hookworm on the side, number 3, only infects dogs and cats, but there are other types of hookworms that affect humans and other types of animals. What's really neat about this one is they actually take more blood from the hosts than they need to survive. So it's said that they like take your life force and all of your blood because they just keep sucking away at your life. Having a hookworm can lead to malnutrition, anemia, lack of energy, stunted growth, and slowed mental development. But the way to prevent and combat hookworm infections is by having a proper diet and having good nutrition to replenish all of the nutrients that the hookworm has taken from you. So getting lots of vitamins and all of the necessary food groups that you need can help combat the effects of the hookworm, like literally sucking up all of the nutrients out of your blood. So let's go ahead and take a look at this one. Again, under the lowest scanning power objective. And we'll just move the knobs to try and get in focus. So the next slide in our set, slide number 4, is the pinworm, which is a really, really disgusting parasite. So pinworms feed on intestinal bacteria and other intestinal contents. And females will lay thousands of eggs in their lifetime, and she actually just like leaves a trail of the eggs wherever she goes. They travel up and down the intestines and exit through the anus. So the female, after it exits, crawls around on the skin surrounding the anus and deposits her eggs as she's crawling around. The crawling that she's doing causes itching, which causes the person to itch the anus, and eggs are then deposited on the fingers of the person itching their anus. And then the eggs, if they aren't washed off your fingers, will get on your food, or you know how sometimes people will be like biting at their nails. They can also you can also get them that way. So you get the pinworm infection after you have either ingested the eggs through like not washing your hands and touching food, or like biting your nails, or inhaling them. And it's really easy to inhale them because they're really tiny and they can kind of fly through the air and get deposited on all sorts of household items, especially bedding, laundry, and door handles. They aren't actually known to transmit any diseases to humans, which is, I guess, a good thing. And finally, after they're ingested, they of course travel to the small intestine, where they crawl up and down and then exit through the anus again. And it's just kind of an ongoing cycle, which is why you always want to wash your hands and not bite your fingernails. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the pinworm under the microscope. So we're going to be looking at it on low power. The pinworm's kind of tiny, so you might want to move from the scanner lens to the low power. But, you know, whatever, you do you. So let's go ahead and turn the adjustment knobs so that we can get a clear picture of the pinworm, which is disgusting. So the next slide in our set, slide number 5, is the dog tip, which as the name suggests, commonly infects dogs, like this one. So, about the tick, it is actually not an insect, it is an arachnid, which is the same family as spiders, because ticks actually have 8 legs instead of 6 legs like an insect. Ticks pierce the skin of the host, like in this case the dog, and then hold on with their mouths. And then they feed on the blood of their host, so they suck it and then use it as nutrition. One really bad thing about ticks, besides the fact that they feed on your blood, is that they actually transmit a lot of diseases. Many virus and protozoan parasites, most commonly the Lyme disease, which Avril Lavigne has, which is just a fun tidbit. And they also transmit Rocky Mountain spotted fever and tick paralysis, but most notably Lyme disease, because that one's the worst. So let's look at this one. Let's look at this one under the microscope. This one definitely you just need to use the scanner setting for because it's pretty big. So let's just turn the knobs so that we can get it in focus. So the next slide in our set, slide number 6, is the bed bug. The bed bug only attacks humans and other animals at night while they're sleeping, and they only stay long enough to attack you, feed on your blood, and then they run back to their hiding places, which is usually in the folds of mattresses, inside cracks in the floors or walls, and sometimes in your suitcase if you're staying in a hotel so that they can, hitch a ride back to your house. So what I do when I get to hotels is I take my flashlight out and check the beds and my suitcases when I'm there because, there might be bed bugs. They don't actually hang on the host that they're feeding on because when they're feeding on them, they're sleeping and not really moving that much. So when you look at them under the microscope, you'll kind of see that they have really stumpy legs because they haven't really been adapted to hold on and cling on things. They just kind of run away. They can be spread through either contact with the person who has them, they'll hop from the person to person, or through household items like bedding and laundry, or hotel sheets, or hotel suitcases, those kind of things too. So let's take a look at it under the microscope. This one again is pretty big, so you should only need to use the scanning power for it. And then we'll use the knobs again to adjust the focus so that we can see it nice and clear. Sleep tight. Don't let the bed bugs bite. So slide number 7 in our set is the body louse. You've heard of head lice. Well, this is body lice. It's basically has the same physical structure. It just infects the body instead of the scalp. So one really disgusting thing about the body louse, that's the singular form of the word lice, is that it actually has a claw, like dog claws, at the end of each of its legs so that it can more easily hold on to the host that it's, sucking the blood of. There are actually 2 groups of lice, chewing and sucking. Chewing lice feed on hair, feathers of birds, blood, and other skin secretions, while sucking lice just suck on your blood. Yay. So when the louse bites you, it causes itching, skin irritation, and can sometimes lead to a secondary infection. One of the diseases that they're likely to carry is typhus, which is a bacteria transmitted to humans through the louse's poop, and it's very deadly. It kills lots of people. So this one is kind of small, so you might need to use the low power lens to look at it, but you can probably see it under the scanning lens, which is the smallest lens. So let's put it under here and see, and use the turning knobs on the side to adjust the focus so that we can see it nice and clear. So don't have a lousy day. So our last slide in the set, slide number 8, is the human flea. So when you usually think of fleas, you think of them on like dogs and cats, but this one is actually one that infects humans, as the name suggests. So fleas feed on blood of their host, and these are actually probably my favorite in the set because they have a number of really cool adaptations that they've developed to make it easier for them to carry on their flea functions. So the first of these really cool adaptations is their advanced jumping mechanism that they have developed to aid them in jumping from host to host. So if I'm over here and my friend's like 5 feet away, they can just, hop on over and, boing, then they infected my pal over there. Their second really cool adaptation is they have small backward-facing hairs on their body which allow them to not slip through the fur or feathers of the host that they're infecting. They also have spiky hairs and claws on their legs to help them hang on to their host. And finally, some types of fleas have rows of spines on their head to help them attach and stay on their host. One really bad thing about fleas is that they are a carrier of the plague, which is like a really, really bad disease. It's like the most devastating disease in human history. It's killed millions and millions of people. In one of the worst epidemics of it in the 14th century, it killed 25 million people, which was 1/4 of the population of Europe, because it was transmitted from rats who were carrying plague. The fleas would bite them, and then they'd go to other rats, and then they'd go to humans, and then give the humans the plague that they had gotten from the rats. And then the plague would kill the humans, which was really bad. So let's take a look at what this very bad guy looks like under the microscope. It's pretty small, but we should still be able to see it with the scanning lens. So we're going to twist these lenses again just to make sure that we are getting a good, clear picture. Okay, and that is the